Okay, so I've been meaning to make this video for a while. I just keep forgetting and just get caught up in the work itself. So what's happening is somewhere on here. There we go. Boop. So that's what's happening today. Torque converter is in. I am putting one of the second to last bell housing bolts in. Now, I want this video to be not just an update, but something helpful as well, because this is something that I have discovered that makes life a lot easier. And that would be jacking the transmission up to the bottom of the floor pan. Yes, it's not new news. It's not all over the place, though, either. You know, don't hear about it everywhere you go. And I think it's easier with the transfer case out. I think the transfer case keeps you from getting up as high as it might be nice to have it. And when you've got it up, give me a second to crawl on the top of the engine here. Oh. Sorry for the shaky camera, blah, blah, blah. So, look at all that room you've got to get at that bell housing bolt now. Wham! There's one right there, and there's one right there I've already got in. Now I'll have to check to see if that's one. That might be one that was also. But I think it is. Oh, nice. Okay, so I got two more bell housing bolts to put in then. But, and then I got to put the trans dipstick in. We're going to see how that goes with this much space, because I know usually it's a complete pain in the ass to do it otherwise. I hate doing the tranny dipstick. It absolutely sucks. So, what also has happened on this job is the turbo. This turbo supposedly has 138,000 miles or 134, something like that. The turbo I took out has been howling. The bearing inside the turbo has been howling for a while. You can see where the turbo started to wear onto the housing. This wheel's a little bit easier to move than the other one, so I'm hoping that the other turbo's just as good, because, you know, you can feel slop. You can hear it, but you can hear it and feel it on the other one as well, but it's not rubbing the housing. So I'm hoping it's just as good. You know, this turbo's got about 170,000 on it now. So, I don't know, maybe these things don't even last 200,000. But what I figure I might do, just possibly, is buy the 10-blade wheel, as well as the like, Batmo or Wicked wheel, whatever. The balanced assembly from KC Turbos or something like that. I just discovered it this morning. I was like, complete balanced assembly. I might just have to do that with a complete rebuild kit and rebuild this turbo. And then next time, like, the engine's out for, like, head gaskets or something, which who knows when that'll be. But, you know, I'll have this turbo sitting on the shelf ready to go. And that'll be pretty freaking cool. The biggest pain in the ass was doing the drain tube on this thing. There's two studs that come up to where that drain tube mounts onto, and I left the driver's side up pipe on the truck, took the passenger off, and then, like, the bottom triangle right here of the up pipe itself that little triangle would not allow the oil drain tube to come up off the stud. So found out you take them studs out, they're an E-torque socket type of thing. I don't know what size, but take them studs out and you should be able to kind of wiggle it out from underneath that up pipe, and out she comes. And this one absolutely sucks too, but, like, I watched Truckmaster's video because I know he does a fairly in-depth video, and he just did found out you don't do half-inch drive, you do 3/8. They set it right here. So a nice long extension. That's probably longer than a standard extension, obviously, but that plus a 17 and a swivel, that got in to that area pretty well. And I had to buy a magnet because I don't have any down here where I'm working. Whoop, don't trip on stuff. My stuff to finish the job. But I don't know where that magnet's at. But yeah, to fish the bolt down, it's either you put this bolt in and then put the turbo in, or I forgot, so I had to put it down there with a magnet. Then you got to fish that stinking sucker, that extension and whatnot, all the way down there and get that. Once you kind of know your way around it, it's not so bad at all. But unfortunately, this turbo is just giving me grief. I don't know that that's been rubbing, but I know that the front has, and that's more than enough. So I'm hoping I get some more performance out of it. Truck's been an absolute dog off the line lately. I mean, it just is just a freaking turd. I hate it. I hate how slow it's been getting. Now, I want to attribute it to part of that because the torque converter's been slipping, and I want to attribute it to the turbo wheel rubbing. You know, losing turbo wheel diameter, performance, blah, blah, blah. I put a brand new fuel filter on. Air filter's not complete trash. Maybe the setup is, but the filter, it's dirty looking, but like the pleats, there's not a lot of junk in the pleats, so I'm thinking that that's probably not the problem, because I already swapped it with another air filter, and that made like no difference. So I really honestly don't know why this thing's being such a freaking grouch off the line. It just is, it sucks royally to drive. I mean, Dad's truck, you can hold it at 2,000 RPM, and it just gets right up to speed, 50 miles an hour, bam. And you don't ever leave $2,000. This used to be like that. This LBZ used to do that. Now it doesn't. Now you got to get it up. You got to wind it up to 2,500 in order to get this thing up to any kind of speed. It's just pathetic. And I know that kind of sounds like a torque converter stall issue, but it's trust me, it's just freaking a dog. It's not anything locking up improperly or something like that. It's just, it royally sucks to drive right now. It's no fun anymore. It does work, and that's about it. So that's all about I'm doing on this truck. Just gotta get the starter bolted up and wired up, and then I gotta do those. I'm doing those last two bell housing bolts, and that'll be that. I can drop the tranny back down, put the starter in, or maybe put the starter and then tranny. Don't forget your turbo shield. That's a pain in the ass. What I did to get it in there, because it is on these LBZs just an absolute freaking treat. Uh-oh. If it wasn't stuck like a freaking cow. Come on, you piece of crap. Yes, please. I wanted the oil dipstick. This is what I've been dealing with for just fucking days on end. I'm just done with it. I'm just done. Okay, so what I did, took a grinder, cut in there, cut over here. Not that that made any difference. But you can see where it bent. You need that. You really do. Oh, I had to cut that. That's right. That one matters. That one kind of matters. They did not want this turbo shield to go in or out of the truck with the engine in. There's no way to get the engine out with this thing on. There's no way to get the engine in with this thing on. And there's no way to get this out hardly without just kicking and screaming and swearing up a storm. So I bent it up so you can slide it in there semi nice and easy. What a joke. That's one of the things of the LBZ. I mean, you'll notice that I don't have that stupid fan shroud spoked wheel thingy that I think bolts to the fan shroud, I think. I don't have that. The black truck, my 06 Sierra, that this engine was in, never had that fan shroud crap. And that's all it is crap. It's in the way. I don't know what the frick purpose it's supposed to serve as, maybe extra support for this. I've been driving 20-some thousand miles, and I've never had a problem with just the fan shroud in here and the fan. Never. I don't know why they did that. It makes it so much more difficult to change a serpentine belt to even get at that. And it's just like with this boot and whatnot, with the factory or aftermarket intercooler tube. And with the intake, to get in here to do the frickin' serpentine belt, it's a pain in the ass. What a joke. They just totally fucked the LBZ design up royally. Especially since the LBZ suffers from the Y-bridge blowing apart the factory one infinitely more than they do on the LLY, which is sitting over there behind the wood splitter. It's just an absolute frickin' joke what this LBZ design is. Especially with this I cut it off, but that rubber hose was crimped onto this metal pipe. So that way, if you weren't smart enough, you just replaced the metal pipe with a new hose. Which, another thing too, is they did quick connects, plastic quick connect fittings that the rubber hose goes onto the heater core. That's just a dumbass design too. I mean, that's what killed the LLY, or put it out of commission, was one of those stupid plastic fittings blew off going down the freeway. By the time Dad even realized it was, the temp gauge was pegged and the thing started using coolant again. That thing's got head studs on it, brand new gaskets, EGR delete, everything, and it was frickin' starting using coolant again. So probably a cracked head or a cracked block, who knows, but it's just absolutely ridiculous. That's the stupid little shit that they did. You know, I love GM because the Duramax is a solid power plant. The Allison's a solid power plant. You know, in a stock form, obviously tuned. I'm doing torque converter and possibly a trans build down the road. I'm doing Transcode Junior and I'm doing a trans deep pan at the same time with this. So, you know, I'm doing little upgrades to keep it going. It's not exactly ideal for power, long-term power output. But I love GM over any other because, well, it's more comfortable. To me, it's more reliable. I mean, this truck alone, I mean, this has over 280,000 miles, and not one thing was done to it. 200,000 miles, well, obviously 200,000, the tie rods, the pitman arm, all that stuff was original, and then it was taken care of. It started getting sloppy. I mean, granted, there's a lot of highway miles on this thing, but the fact that, you know, the pump rub, we never had that issue, never had wheel bearing issues or anything like that. This truck was just solid. It just went down the road. And it's one of those trucks that actually got built in a good quality, where some of them, you know, oh, well, mine does this stupid little thing and that little thing eats through wheel bearings or something stupid, you know. But this truck was just solid, and that really planted it in my heart that the GM is awesome. I mean, the fact that this truck could go so far with so little maintenance, routine maintenance, and it just kept going and going and going and going. The only thing that ever happened with this, I think, was the thermostats went bad. And, once we got them done, well, then head gaskets went eventually. And that's when we did an engine swap, because we drove 40-some thousand miles, believe it or not. Crab and complain all you want about how you don't believe it. But we drove over 40,000 miles on a blown head gaskets. It started out slow and then got bad. Worse, more worse, and all that stuff, to the point where we couldn't keep coolant in the thing anymore. So, and we've tried the head gasket sealant, and that's what kept it going, too. It didn't necessarily plug everything up really bad, but it did do some clogging down the road, but not immediately. Oh, we lost heat. Oh, the radiator started overheating. No, we never had that problem up until about the third or fourth bottle of head gasket sealant. I mean, we tried to keep driving the thing, and finally it just got so bad to where that bottom head bolt that's on the block, the head had snapped off because the head bolt had stretched so far it just snapped. That says that there's a blown head gasket real bad. So, believe it or not, we drove at 40,000 miles like that, and it was just an absolute beast. I mean, it was on Bully Dog, 90 horsepower tune, power pup. It was just an absolute monster. I love the LLY. I'd rather have the LLY with a 6-speed conversion than the LBZ, to be honest, because this thing, I'm not happy with Corey's tunes. And this thing has become a dog for some reason. It's just slow with 150,000 miles or 170,000 on this engine. And the LLY that had 260,000 on it, but when we pulled it out, the thing still freaking screamed. And there was nothing slowing it down. I tell you what. So people want to rant and rave about the LLY, but you do head studs like you do with the LBZ, and you got yourself a bulletproof engine pretty much. The only thing good about the LBZ is the bigger connecting rods, and after that, I don't know, the pistons are weaker than the LLY LB7. So, that's a downside. And from what I've heard, people have been breaking cranks in the LBZ a little bit easier than they have the other ones. I don't know what that's about. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Because I know people break them in the LB7s all the time. I'm hoping mine never does that. But, I don't know. Duramax has just been a good, solid power plant for us. Our family. I mean, it's taken us over a quarter of a million miles, over 500,000 miles. No. A little over 250,000 miles that the Duramax has taken us, which doesn't sound like a lot for some people, but for some people, over the last 10 years, it's taken well over 200,000 miles with very minimal maintenance on the body, the chassis, the engine, drivetrain, everything. That's just awesome. I mean, there aren't very many Fords or Dodges that could say that, especially without having, this thing not having a straight front axle. I mean, you don't have all the extra little U-joints and whatnot on the front axles, all that stuff. And this truck never got stuck in the snow or nothing like that. It's a comfortable, it's a solid, reliable truck. It's GM for you. And man, does it ever look freaking good when it's cleaned up, I tell you. Just comfy seats and everything, I tell you. I would not own anything else, ever. Yeah, and people are telling me, oh man, Cummins tows. Well, so does the Duramax. I mean, it tows beautiful. I wouldn't tow with anything else, to be honest, because the Duramax is so smooth of an engine. And you can almost hardly feel this thing running. And a Cummins, that's not so. The V8 balances itself out so incredibly smooth, just V8. But inline 6, it's not as refined and smooth. So, in my opinion. And a power stroke's a power stroke. I mean, they're over-computerized, over-sensorized. One sensor goes bad, one major sensor, and the whole freaking thing quits running. Obviously with a Duramax crank sensor, something like that, obviously, but like Ford, you got the ICP and the blah, 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 blah. Lots of other little shit to just screw your day up. So, not the Duramax. None of our trucks have ever left us on the side of the road. I put 60,000 on my LB7 in the last 3 or 4 years. That's kind of bad, but that's almost 20,000 a year. But anyway, that has been nothing but reliable for me. This LBZ has been nothing but reliable. It's got 25,000 on it roughly. On the setup, the engine transfer case. And granted, I've had to do some stuff. Almost nothing. So I did glow plugs because I was having issues starting. Injectors are probably next on the list for this one. I did injectors and glow plugs on the LB7. And I did a controller on this as well because I couldn't figure out why the glow plugs weren't working. So, that kind of stuff. Other than that, it's golden. So, now that I've ranted for almost 20 minutes and I could have gotten a lot more shit done, but I figured I'd update you guys and show you the little tip trick that not everybody does. It's only 2 bolts on the bottom of the transmission mount, cross member, and then possibly having to take your drive shaft out, maybe. Whatever, it's 4 11 millimeter bolts for each drive shaft, and I mean, you get so much more room. I mean, if I had thought about doing this a while ago, doing the head gasket on the LB7 in the truck wouldn't have been a problem on the driver's side. It's so much, and injectors too, because you gain so much more room in the firewall area. So huge difference. But not everybody thinks of it, Doesn't mean anybody's more stupid than the other, but it just is what it is. People just sometimes don't realize, don't think of it, and then they hear it and like, dang, why didn't I think of that? So one of them things. Thought I'd share it. So appreciate you guys watching for the few people who do. And let me know what you guys think of the upgrades coming along. I'm definitely going to do a video of before and after the torque converter. So, well, not before as much. I'll probably have to clip in where the 06 LBZ, I did a full throttle in that, couple of them on video, and they're up on YouTube. But we'll definitely do an after shot with this truck, so that'll be interesting. I'm really hoping for a world of difference, and I'm hoping my performance comes back off the line because it used to be fantastic. I used to love driving the LBZ over the LB7. Now it just does not even compare. I don't even hardly want to drive this thing until I need to do some work and tow it. So this tow pig. So thanks for watching. God bless.